the Italian Football Podcast.
The question needs to be asked now. Milan have a decision to make. You know, the top four is sliding away and really at risk, even more so than much more so, I would say, right now than Juventus. You know, can Milan or should Milan stick with Fonseca? Can they actually risk sticking with Fonseca? Given, I mean, the Scudetto obviously is gone, but given how much they really risk missing on the top four, you know, should Milan start thinking about sacking Fonseca?
I think that is definitely something they should take into their calculations. But given that the situation that they have created, the Milan directors, because again, the issue is not just the results. The issues are that you have players who mentally are not worthy of being at Milan. They are great players with individual skill, fantastic, world-class even, talent, skill, whatever. But the mentality just isn't there. And if you sack the coach at this point, well, you're building a pretty dangerous precedent, because you're kind of shifting the power over to the players and basically saying that they can get anyone sacked. That's a really dangerous virus to get into a dressing room, because if you know, that can easily become something that players used to. As soon as they don't like a manager and his decision, they just stop playing for him, and then the manager gets sacked, and it continues. We've seen it time and time again at different clubs. So I think at this moment in time, it's very, very dangerous if they did that.
I'm not sure how much the players want. I mean, I have no inside information on this, but I don't know how much the players want Fonseca to be said, if they want it to be said. I'm not sure if we're there. I think that clearly there's an issue that Fonseca is not able to. Maybe the job is too big. Maybe the job is too big for him, but he's not able to get.
I'm not saying that the players want him sacked. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, for all intents and purposes, when you clearly have the issues that you have at Milan so publicly, if you sack the manager at that point, you're essentially setting a precedent, a very dangerous precedent, regardless of what the players want actively or not, where it's you essentially tell them by your actions that they can get the manager sacked when they're not happy. That is very, very dangerous. And I think that's a very dangerous risk.
I think that would assume that they're not happy with the manager. I mean, that might be the case. I think you have a decision to make. Like, you know, look at the situation for Milan right now. They're 8th in the table. They're 14 points off the top. So obviously the Scudetto's gone. They do have a game in hand. But they're 8 points off the top four. And you look at their results this season: 6 wins, 5 draws, 4 losses in Serie A. But in the last 2 months, 3 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses. I mean, that's win, draw, loss, win, draw, loss, win, draw, loss. I mean, that's just simply not good enough. It's not even close to being good enough. See, surely you have a decision to make. Like, do you want to stick with Fonseca with these results, where there's no signs of improvement? Because, as I've said, the results are win, draw, loss the last 2 months. Or, you know, do you stick with Fonseca and risk missing the top four and the financial ramifications of that going forward as well, looking ahead to next season? Do you risk it, or do you change it now, bring in someone like a Sarri or someone else that's going to get you into the top four? I mean, I don't know. I mean, are you that married to the Fonseca project, or do you just accept that, well, this project isn't going to work if we give him more time?
Well,
I mean,
the issue is
showing signs that it is going to work.
My issue, again, is that in this specific moment in time, if you sack Fonseca, you would be setting a very dangerous precedent by your actions, which is very, very difficult to stamp out later on, where you essentially, every manager almost has this question mark hanging over them as soon as they walk through the door. I don't think... that is a result of everything that's happened very publicly since the beginning of the season until now. But I do think that there is a mitigating factor. And then I look at Fiorentina, I look at Lazio, Fiorentina, Inter are the teams, you know, above there, and they're 8 points behind them. Fiorentina and Lazio, they kind of have the same, they Lazio play tonight against Inter, but Fiorentina have a game in hand just like Milan do. So it's not panic mode. The red alarm bells are really ringing. I wonder if right now is the right time to do it. I wonder if, again, it's about risk analysis and what you gain, what you stand to lose, and so on. But regardless, if you are to do it, if you are to bring someone else in, it cannot be, in my opinion, just a traghettatore. You can't just bring someone in and say, okay, well, you're just going to be the caretaker coach until the end of the season, and then we're going to relaunch. That would be a disaster. If you're going to do it, then basically rip up everything and say, okay, well, this is the person we're backing. This is the person we're going to actually build with, because at least that way you send a message to the players that, okay, didn't work out with Fonseca, but all of you are not off the hook. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if you just get a traghettatore, someone who just comes in and bring everything to the end of the season, well, you're essentially saying, well, okay, the season's a write-off. You're all off the hook. Then we'll see what happens in the summer, which ones of you stay and who goes. That would just be and not to mention what a betrayal that would be to the fans. It would be pissing them in the face.
The fans are not happy at all, and it seems to be right now. I mean, the Milan players were booed off the pitch.
Did you see before the game?
Well, there's lots of good. I mean, this was supposed to be a celebration. Remember, this was the 125th anniversary of Milan.
Well.
Before the game, you had a parade of like all the legends that walked out. I mean, all the
Maldini.
legends like Van Basten, Gullit, Rijkaard, Baresi, Inzaghi.
Except Maldini.
And
Boban.
Well, Boban wasn't invited, which I thought was a terrible look. I know there's been obviously legal issues between the club, but that's just awful. And then Maldini refused the invitation.
That is just another...
Maldini also put out a quote after the game, which was quite telling as well about what's going on at Milan. But so the relationship's not good there. But there was a banner from the Milan fans towards the management, which said, in the Curva Sud, which said, "We honour our champions, those symbols of a Milan that no longer exist," which was quite telling.
And not just that, when they were chanting that we're not Americans, I couldn't stop laughing. Noi non siamo americani. It just made me, I just could not stop laughing. It was so surreal.
Well, there was lots. There was that. There was a banner outside San Siro which said, "To the Milan management, we have waited and supported you endlessly. We've had enough of your mediocrity." There was the chants, like you said, "We are not American." There was the chant.
Such a ridiculous chant. I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously.
You don't
We're
deserve
not
us.
American. What's that got?
Yeah, you don't deserve us. We are fed up. And then there was also chants of Cardinale, you have to sell as well. So I mean, it's clear that the Milan fans are not happy with the management, and they seem to have lost the fans as well, which again just adds to the whole, how do you possibly create some kind of unity between the players, the manager, the fans, the management? Like, if everybody's not rowing in everybody's fighting against each other, the infighting, it's a mess. It's a complete mess. Like, how do you possibly, where do you start? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, like, where do you start? And I think it's where you start. Where do you start? Well, you should have. We know where you should have been, but where you go from here? Again, I said it's risk analysis. Okay, you can absolutely make an argument that you should sack Fonseca, absolutely. But at the same time, this is, again, a coach who has done everything to make it work. He's tried everything, literally trying everything to make it work in terms of tactical changes. He's tried approach to be professional. He's fighting for Milan in the sense that he wants them to bleed for the shirt. And that's where it's kind of falling apart. If you sack him then, that's my point. Then you're essentially saying that it's okay not to care for the shirt. Because unless you bring in someone who you marry and give a long-term contract to and say, look, this is now your show, and that way you basically make it clear to the players that everyone is under sotto esame, in the sense that whichever player, no matter who you are, does not start showing the right attitude and backing the club's decision to go with this coach, regardless if it's Fonseca or a new coach, you're out in the summer. I mean, you have to do something. You can't continue like this. You know, it's not.
Well, he didn't even turn up, did he, to the 125th anniversary, which wasn't a good look either. But yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I think where it all started to really go wrong, and this is where Maldini is the common denominator here, not turning up, and he put his sent out a message: "Happy birthday, Milan, for your 125th birthday. No one will ever be able to undermine your bond with the Maldini family, history and memory. No one will ever be able to undermine." I mean, that's not even subtle. Who that's directed at?
There's nothing subtle about that.
No. So I mean, he's the tie with all of this. That's where it all started to really.
Well, of course it
fall
does.
Apart,
you have to be an idiot to go to war with a Maldini at Milan. Like again, it's like when like so you may not want to like it, but the fact of the matter is that Italy is Italy. It works in these ways. There are certain things you can't do. You can't at Roma humiliate De Rossi or Totti. You can't at Milan humiliate Maldini. If you do, these have football political reverberations that go on forever. It's as simple as that. And that's what they don't understand. You have to be diplomatic about these issues. These are touchy subjects for these environments. And it's not more difficult than that. And they haven't understood it, neither at Roma or at Milan. And so they have created their own cluster F of a mess. And so and it's not like, again, these aren't just random run-of-the-mill people. It's Paolo Maldini, for Christ's sakes. I mean, there's no bigger symbol of, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just you just don't do this. And now they have, and he's his honor has been hurt and questioned and insulted. So he's not going to give up. But I don't know. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And well, I don't know where they go from here on out. I don't know where they continue. What do they do? Do they sell the club, which would again be another rebirth of Milan, or which I don't think is going to happen, because I don't think anyone's going to pay Cardinale what he wants for Milan. Just not, Italian clubs just aren't worth that. If they were worth that, then neither Oak Tree or Redbird would be at Inter or Milan. So the short end of it is, okay, you appoint, you get rid of Fonseca, but then again, like I said, there is a real risk of, because the conflict at Milan between Fonseca and the players, quote unquote, is not just results, it's also how the players behave. And Fonseca, again, has not humiliated them. He's not publicly thrown them under the bus. He's, if anything, been very kind and very gentle and tried everything, shown that he wants to make this work, but he needs the players to come on board, and they're not, for whatever reason. And that's a dangerous precedent to set when you sack the coach. And
it's a perfect storm.
It's a perfect storm.
It's a perfect storm. It really
right now.
is.
It's a mess.
It is.
It's a mess.
It is. Like, what do you do?